Hey everyone, I'm back with another game review. And this is my review of Jak 3. Yeah, so this game was released, I believe, back in 2004, I want to say. Or something like that, like a year or so after. Actually, I think it was released 6 months after the original game. I mean, after Jak 2 Renegade was. And it takes place almost immediately afterwards. Now, there is a bit of confusion with this storyline. Not as much as with Jak 2's, but at the end of Jak 2, the war's beaten. The Metalheads are defeated because their leader's defeated, Metal Core. And the Crimson Guard has fallen. The new Crimson Guard, run by Ashlyn and Torn, is now controlling Haven City and whatnot. And yeah, but at the beginning of this game, Jak and Daxter are exiled to the Wasteland while there's still a war going on in Haven City, which is kind of weird. And that's never explained, I don't think, either. I mean, there's some flashbacks while they're walking through the unforgiving Wasteland, but other than that, but they don't really explain everything. But yeah, basically at the beginning of this game, they are exiled by Count Viger, who I guess runs the council of Haven City. And even though Daxter and Pecker decided they have the choice to not go with him, they decided that they want to. And so yeah, so they're all traveling through the Wasteland and eventually pass out, and they're met by two new characters, Damus and Cleaver, who are kind of, and they take, well, yeah, and they take Jak, Daxter, and Pecker back to a different city called Spargus City, because up to this point it was believed that there was no other civilizations, or at least cities, whole cities, you know, outside of Haven City, but apparently there is. There's Spargus City. You know, Jak gets a wardrobe change, he gets a haircut, and then he wakes up and he's automatically put into an arena to prove himself. Alright, because the people of Spargus City, alright, their motto is survival of the fittest. So he has to prove themselves to them, himself to them, before he'll be accepted as a Wastelander with them. Okay? So the first challenge is just platforming, collecting little spears of light, but then there's an arena challenge. You have to kill these creatures known as Marauders, which are kind of some of the minor enemies of this game. When you go out into the actual wasteland, there will be Marauders in vehicles, but periodically throughout the game, such as these arena challenges, there'll be Marauders on foot. Now, right now they just have swords, but eventually they'll get guns too. And there'll even be a mission later on in the game where you have to go to their fortress and whatnot to retrieve a precursor artifact from them that they stole. There's a total of 3 arena challenges in the game, and it gets a bit tougher each time. Reoccurring characters are, of course, Jak, Daxter, and Pecker, Onin, Kira, Samos, Crew is mentioned. He's not actually in there, obviously, because he died in Jak 2, but he's mentioned. And there's Torn and Ashlyn and Onin and Sig. I don't know if I mentioned him yet or not. And there's a lot of recurring characters in this game. Oh, and there's Tess, of course, much that I can't stand her. So yeah, I'm sure there's more that I can't think of right now, but yeah. And new characters include Seam, who is kind of like the monk of Spargus City. She has her own trio of monks, in fact, and whatnot. She did not trust Jak and Daxter at first. However, she does warm up to them eventually in the game. And then there's Damus, who's the king of Spargus City, And you know what? I'm just gonna reveal it right now because you know my reviews, as always, are filled with spoilers. So yeah, but it reveals towards the end of the game that he's actually Jack's father. And then there's Cleaver, who's pretty high up in Sparga City. He's yeah, and then Arrow's back as Cyber Arrow. And he's actually the final boss of the game. And, you know, because he was supposedly killed in Jak 2. And then there's Count Viger, who actually made a brief cameo appearance in the PSP game Daxter. Okay? But he actually plays a much bigger role in this game. Although, if I remember, I think this game actually came out before Daxter. I'm not exactly sure. But, yeah. Daxter is a really good game, but this is Jak 3, obviously. So, yeah. So, there's a lot of reoccurring characters, obviously. But there's also a lot of new characters, too, which adds to the characteral variety. Now, back to the story, though. There is a ship approaching Earth. You know that light in the sky that you seen in Jak 1 and 2? Yeah, that's the ship. It's known as the Dark Maker's ship. It's revealed that the Dark Makers, which is the major enemies in this game, were once precursors. However, their exposure to Dark Eco changed them. They began twisting worlds, conquering planets, and Dark Ages ensued. Now the Dark Ones have found this world, and it's up to Jak and Daxter to save the world from them. And so Arrow basically takes control of the Dark Makers at the end of the game, and that's the final boss, essentially. So yes, you do meet the last survivors of the precursors in this game, too, and I'm not going to spoil that for you, alright, because that's fucking funny shit, alright? So, yeah. Anyways, this game has a lot more variety in the gameplay. In Jak 2, there were 4 guns. The Peacemaker, the Vulcan Fury, the Blaster Mod, and the Scattergun. The Scattergun was red, the Blaster was yellow, the Peacemaker was purple, and the Vulcan was, or Vulcan Fury, both Vulcan Barrel, whatever, was blue. However, there is a total of 12 guns in this game. Those 4 guns make a return. However, there is 2 more guns for each color. There is the Reflector Beam, which is the second yellow gun, and the Gyro Burster, which is the third and final yellow gun. There's the Wave Concussor, which is the second red gun, and then there's the RPM, or whatever the fuck it's called, which is the third and final red gun. And there's the there's the electric gun where you shoot a lot of electricity. I forget what it's called, which is the second blue gun. And then there's the needle laser, which is the third and final blue gun. And then there's the, I forget what it's called, but it's the gun that basically makes things slowly float up in the air briefly, which is the second purple gun. And then there's the like nuke or whatever. I forget what it's called, but it's basically it's a huge nuke blast, which is the third and final purple gun. It's the most powerful gun in the game. Not only that, but there's a lot of vehicles too. In the vehicle storage area of Sparga Cities where they can be found, and there's many of them that you get periodically throughout the story. However, there's some of them you have to buy from the pause menu via collecting precursor orbs. And each of them has their own unique abilities, such as the big truck. I forget what it's called, but you have to use it with Jak and Sig when you go take down some metalheads. That's generally really good for big jobs and whatnot, and it's really good for mauling through Marauders vehicles. And then there's the Sand Shark, which is the first gun with weapons you actually get, and the first vehicle with weapons you actually get, so the second vehicle total they actually get. And that's good for speed. And then there's the Dune Hopper, which has a huge jump, and that's good for jumping over large gaps and whatnot, as well as enemies too. Yeah. And the Tough Puppy. which not really that tough at all. It's the first vehicle. It has no weapons on. It's completely useless. Only use it if you have to, which you only have to use it like a couple times, really, I think. No, 2 or 3 times, whatever. Anyways, yeah. And all the vehicles in this game adds to the gameplay, too. Most people don't like that because they say that Jak and Daxter are supposed to be a platformer, but there's still platforming elements in this game, and I just really liked it, so fuck off. Plus, there's also the Hellcat Cruiser, which you have to use like 1 or 2 times. Actually, I think just 1 time. And I don't know. That's actually one of my complaints, because it was a really cool idea to have the Hellcat Cruiser, but be actually playable and whatnot. But I don't know why. I just think that the controls were kind of messed up with it. I mean, you can't stop in place at all, and whenever you even slightly tap the build or the fortress they have to break into with it, you take damage, and your health bar goes down so fast with it. So yeah, it's just really weird. I mean, it was an interesting idea, but I just don't think it was executed too well. So that's actually my first complaint about this game. Yeah, another thing I really like in this game is that Daxter's playable quite a bit. In Jak 1 he wasn't at all. In Jak 2 he was a little bit. When you ran away from the boulder and when you ran away from the giant spider he was playable. And I don't remember if he was at all other than that. But in here he's playable quite a bit. At least 6 times, but I'm sure he's playable more than that though. Like, they really tried to abuse his playability, which I really personally like. And of course there's still platforming elements in this game, which is what the game is known for. And there's still collectibles too. The precursor orbs make it yet another return. And there's a total of 600 of them in this game, which I've not yet found all of them. But I don't believe... If I remember right, I don't think you need all of them in order to buy everything in the game, because I think I have bought everything in the game. But yeah, and unlike Jak 2, where you collect certain numbers of precursor orbs and you just automatically get things, you actually have to purposely buy them this time around. And there's a lot. They go from gun upgrades to cheats to new vehicles. I think there's even vehicle upgrades and all sorts of different things. There's different movies you can unlock, I believe, and commentaries and whatnot, and all sorts of different things are just really cool and really worth collecting the precursor orbs. Like in Jak... Excuse me, jeez. Like in Jak 2, you can collect them periodically throughout the game, which, you know, they're a lot more frequent in this game, thankfully, since there's a lot more and whatnot. Even though this game is much larger than Jak 2, I believe. But there's also a lot of... Also, like in Jak 2, there's also a lot of challenges throughout the game that will give you precursors for doing certain things that vary from finding a certain location where there'll be a golden precursor orb at, or beating a race, or following the spirit of an oracle to a certain location without falling too far behind. Or defeating a certain number of enemies, within a certain time limit. And yeah, and just all of it is really cool. And there will be challenges in Haven City, Sparga City, and in the Wasteland. And the Wasteland is probably the hugest location in the game. It's huge, ginormous. It takes forever to navigate, and it's really easy to get lost in it too. If it wasn't for the mini-map, then I'd probably get lost in it all the time. And I used to too before I said, hey, well, I just used the fucking mini-map. Or, I mean, the fucking overhead map. Yeah. But, I mean, and this game is just really fun. Out of the original trilogy, I admit it is my least favorite. But I still really like it. Another really good aspect about this game is now you still have Dark Jak, And he's improved too because you can choose him even if you have the tiniest bit of dark eco. Alright, and you have a chance to get 4 dark powers again, but there's also would you get complete random, not by going to an oracle, but there's also Light Jack now, which you basically Jack can turn into Light Jack now and go to a certain oracle and you can get a total of 4 light powers. But unlike in Jack 2 where getting the dark powers was optional, here it's actually part of the story. You have no choice. Alright. But yeah, and Light Jack is really cool. But I still think that my favorite is, actually I don't know if my favorite's Light Jack or Dark Jack. Kind of hard to tell, really. I mean, they're both really cool. Like, Dark Jack's best for taking out lots of enemies at once, while Light Jack's mainly for defense and or escaping. Alright, because, I mean, he has the Light Shield, which is for defense. He has Light Regeneration, which is for healing yourself, obviously. He has Light Flight, which is which can be used to get away from enemies, and there's also Light Flash Freeze, which can be used to temporarily stop time to get away from enemies. So, yeah. Alright, but Dark Jack has the Dark Bomb, the Dark Blast, the Dark Strike, and the Giant Dark Jack. I don't remember. I mean, I know he has Giant Dark Jack in Jack 2. I don't remember what the 4th one is in Jack 3 though. If it's the same or not, I don't remember. Yeah, but that's. But probably my favorite edition of this game is definitely Light Jack. And also with the Metalheads. Obviously the Metalheads are back again. Well, not obviously, but they are. Their leader's gone, but now Cyber Arrow actually controls them, I believe. And every single Metalhead, I believe, from Jack 2 is in this game, but there's a lot more. Like, is there no end to Naughty Dog's unbelievable creativity? Seriously. But another minor enemy in this game is the Crimson Deathbots, which they were in Jack 2, but only at a few select parts. Now they're all over in this game, because there's a constant war going on in Haven City, and they're a part of it. Against Haven City, obviously. Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's lots of different types of them. And the other minor enemies, which, minor and major enemies, I guess, are the Dark Makers. There's lots of different, or I guess not a lot, but quite a few different types of Dark Makers and whatnot, so yeah, it's just really interesting, I think. Yeah, I guess there's not anything else left to say about this game. I mean, I think Naughty Dog did a really great job with it, you know? Yeah. So I guess that's it then. So what score will I give this game? Well, I already talked about the characters, the gameplay, the story. The graphics are really good. The graphics are really good in all the games. This game's graphics and Jack 2's graphics are pretty much the same in every conceivable way, and I really do prefer these over Jack 1's kitty graphics, just because it gives a more grim, more dark tone to it, which I kind of overtone to it, which I really like. Yeah, so the graphics are excellent. So gameplay, graphics, character, story. I guess that's it. Oh, and also about the gameplay, the jetboard does make a return. And whatnot. Only thing, I have to ask something. See that picture right there? If you have this game, then you can just look on the back yourself. Not the bottom one, the one right above that. When the fuck does that ever happen in this game? Are there like secret, not required missions that I don't know about or something? Seriously, when the fuck does that ever happen? I don't recall that ever happening. Please tell me, when does that happen? Yeah, but I'll give this game a... You know, I've been praising this game, but it does have a lot of faults with it. I mean... like... you know, I kind of wish... Quite honestly, I kind of wish there was more to the Wasteland. Because, I mean, you do quite a few things in the Wasteland, but it's like... I wish there were like more areas in the Wasteland to go to. I guess that's one of my major complaints. I wish there was more things you did in the Wasteland itself, and more structures in the Wasteland, more places you go inside of in the Wasteland. And some of the structures out there, I wish they had some sort of explanation to them. You know. Excuse me. Also, I wish there was some sort of explanation to the oracles that you find throughout the series. It's kind of weird to me. And whatnot, like, really. So, yeah. Also, I wish there was a power-up later on in the game that actually allowed you to use the powers of Dark Jack and Light Jack, as well as some things from regular Jack, such as the jet board or the guns. That would be awesome, you know. Riding on the jet board with Dark Jack and Light Jack's shield on and wings. That would have been awesome. Or maybe using maybe when you're in Dark Jack form, using some of the multiple Dark Jack techniques, such as the shield and wings and time freeze, which doesn't really freeze time, it just slows down time. But yeah, it's called flash freeze, but it doesn't freeze time, it just slows down time. Okay, yeah, that would have been kind of cool additions to the game. I wish they kind of would add it, but I mean, it doesn't take away from the game a whole lot. They're just minor little complaints of mine. But so I'll give this game a 6.9 out of 10 because I really had a lot of fun with this game. I honestly did. This is one of the games that's really nostalgic with me. I remember the commercials on TV when it first came out. That's how much I remember this game, you know. I got this game before I even got very far at all in Jak 2. You know, that was back before I really paid attention at all to the stories and games and whatnot. Yeah, so 6.9 out of 10 is my rating for this game. So rate, subscribe, and do all the good stuff. And see you after, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Stay tuned for more videos of mine. Bye.